next day. In the same way that a burglar doesn't rob you, they knock on the door in the morning and go, sorry mate, give you your Xbox back. That don't happen. You need to take it back. And taking it back is a lot easier than people think. The government and their willing foot soldiers in fancy dress have no power over us. I can't hear you, sorry, what are you saying? Louder? He was a racing driver, wasn't he? They have absolutely no power over us. The only power they have is the power that we give them. And as soon as we withdraw that, that has got us in this mess. When thousands of people took to the beaches on the south coast, sure, they issued a national emergency, but what did they do about it? Absolutely nothing. Piers Morgan lost his little brain, but he did nothing about it because there's too many in number. We are the 99.99%, and when we stand together in non-compliance, the game is over. We've been told that to stop people dying, we need to stop living. I don't comply with that and I don't accept that. Nothing changes the society more than war, but bombs are loud and expensive and the population has had its fill. So we come to silent weapons for quiet wars. It's a war for our minds and for our acquiescence. We're in the Third World War right now and a shot hasn't even been fired. The UK governmental policy has not been driven by doctors and virologists, it's been driven by psychologists because it's a war for our mind. SAGE is taking advice from the Behavioural Insights team, a department of UK government whose purpose is to nudge you into a way of thinking that will garner the response that they desire. Fear. Fear is the currency of control. That's why we were shown leaked footage of people in China dropping dead in the street. Why did that never happen anywhere else? They built tons of new hospitals and morgues everywhere with taxpayers' money that were never used, and they were never intended to be used. They were built to frighten us into compliance. When you look out the window and see a morgue being built next door, you're more likely to comply with staying in your house. That was the sole purpose of it. It's the continuous line of if you do this, you can get your life back. It's just a 3-week lockdown to flatten the curve. Remember that? March. And when the curve was flatter than building 7, they extended the lockdown and they expanded it. Because it's nothing to do with health, it's about control. Wear a mask and you can have your life back. Cover your face in servitude and you can have your life back. Masks that do nothing to spread, to stop the spread of viral particles and everything to damage our intake of oxygen. The build-up of bacteria has already caused great damage, not least in America. Members of Parliament took the knee to protest against the murder of George Floyd, a guy who died saying he couldn't breathe, while mandating it for an entire population to wear masks so we can't breathe. Because it's not about health, it's about control. The once great NHS was destroyed and rebranded as the COVID Health Service, nothing more than a propaganda arm of government. And while hospitals sat empty, cancer went undiagnosed, heart disease went untreated, suicide spiked 200%, alcohol addiction, domestic violence, drug addiction, all through the roof. In America now, 25% of young adults have contemplated taking their own life in the last 5 months. 25%. We were asked to step out of our cages once a week at 8 PM to applaud that destruction, even as our jobs and abilities to feed our families were taken away. Because it's not about health, it's about control. When you look at a government poll just before an election and it says, okay, the Tories have got a 2-point lead or Labour are catching or whatever, you look at the number of people that took part in that poll. So if it's a couple of hundred, you discard it, not bothered. If it's a couple of thousand, you discard it. If it's high tens of thousands in that poll, you think, okay, maybe that could play out over the entire nation. Neil Ferguson's algorithms were taken from 6 people on 6 flights out of Wuhan. Those entire algorithms that said 500,000 people would die here, 2.5 million would die in America, was taken off of 6 people. Let that sink in. Get tested and you can get your life back. A test that doesn't even test for COVID-19, a test whose inventor Kary Mullis said should not be used to test for infectious diseases. But it is, and when it gives them the false positives they desire, those tests will be used to shut down your towns and cities and destroy your livelihoods. And when they shut back down in the winter with no furlough, the suicide rate and the unemployment rate we're seeing now will be a walk in the park. All for a virus with a 99% survival rate, or a 99.9% survival rate. What's the survival rate for starving to death? Does anyone know? I'm pretty sure it ain't great. But again, it's not about health, it's about control. And if you think what we're seeing in Australia now is not coming here in the winter, you're sadly mistaken. Get the vaccine and you can get your life back. A vaccine with two potential scenarios attached. Either it was knocked up in a couple of months by some guy behind bargain booze and it hasn't been tested long term, when many vaccines that are tested long term still lead to horrendous injuries and the payout of billions in vaccine damage payouts. Do you know the average time it takes to produce a vaccine? 20 years. 20 years. And they've never once produced a vaccine for a coronavirus. But like I say, the guy behind bargain booze has got it sorted. It's either that or what is in that vaccine was really all along. And COVID-19 is just a Trojan horse to get it into every man, woman and child on the planet. Whichever one it is, the answer's the same. Absolutely no chance, mate. Now, all of these points that I've raised seem depressing, I'm aware of that. And people feel like there's no end in sight. But the end of all of this is in our grasp. It's simply the word no. I will not accept this. I will not get tested. I will not get vaccinated. I will not accept the Orwellian new normal. I will see my family. I will hug my friends. I will shake your hand. I will put my arm on your shoulder if you need comfort, because I'm a human and I'm going to act like a human. There is nothing normal. There's nothing normal about kids being put in boxes in the playground away from their friends. There's nothing normal about over 60s in care homes having do not resuscitate orders put on them against theirs and their family's consent. Then having treatment withdrawn so they can die alone and have COVID-19 put on their death certificate with zero evidence for it. There's nothing normal about that. There's nothing normal about losing your livelihood. There's nothing social about being distanced from your friends, your families and your fellow human beings. None of it makes sense. You can't go to your grandma's house, but you can take her to Alton Towers. It doesn't make sense because it doesn't need to. Because it's not about health, it's about control. It's our social interaction that makes us human and it makes us who we are. There's nothing normal about children dying alone in hospital beds without their parents beside them at the end. There is nothing normal about that, and I will not accept that as my new normal. We are the 99.99% and we decide our futures, not them. When we cease to go along with their impositions, we cease to be under their control. We are free, sovereign human beings and it's time to start acting like one. Thank you.